So is Nick Cage's actual favorite movie Paddington 2, or is that just a joke? Can someone explain to me, please? So The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent is a buddy comedy starring Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal, and is kind of a love letter to all things Nicolas Cage. But Cage is playing himself in this movie, and in this movie, he's thinking about just quitting acting. But he's got a lot of issues and a lot of debts, and is in need of some money. Really bad. So he accepts an invitation to a wealthy gentleman's birthday party where he'll collect $1 million. Only this guy is like a super Nicolas Cage fan, and may or may not be the head of an international cartel. And the CIA wants Nick to spy on him? So we end up following Nick and Javi as they form a bro-like bond through their crazy antics. And of course, watch Nick struggle with the idea of having to spy on Javi for the CIA. You know, I remember seeing the trailer for this movie and it left me kind of curious. You know, I knew of Nicolas Cage, he's been in some of my favorite movies, but I've always heard these crazy stories about the crazier side of Nick Cage. You know, the one that's like the face of a million memes at this point. You know, I had never seen a movie where Nick Cage had gone all out crazy. In fact, my closest encounter with that side of Nick Cage was just Ghost Rider. But I think we all know how Ghost Rider turned out. So I sat down at my local cinema and prepared my mind for one crazy over-the-top acting performance. And I'm happy to say, I got a lot of crazy Nicolas Cage from this movie, and of course, you know, my lovable Nicolas Cage. This is definitely his movie, and he steals it every time he is on screen. I just loved how he's so low in his life in this film that it's pretty much just bringing him to the point of madness. I mean, for God's sakes, he has a toxic gay relationship with an alternate personality of his named Nikki. If anything of what I just said sounds bananas at all, trust me, it's about as bananas as you think. You're Nick fucking Cage, man! Come on, pull yourself together! His performance definitely had me laughing pretty hard. Which is kind of funny because there was like me and one other person in the screening with me. Like, did this movie bomb or something? Let me know in the comments below. I will say, this is probably the only time I'll ever get to see Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal take LSD together and just run around acting like the biggest idiots of all time. Pedro Pascal is such a great actor. Like, his ability to switch from nice and comedic to menacing and threatening is just impressive. You know, come to think of it, he's had a bit of a resurgence too ever since The Mandalorian. He's been in a lot of stuff recently. The chemistry between Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal in this movie is so on point. They do such a great job together. I just love the bromance camaraderie that they have in this movie. I love how Javi is just this really starstruck fan of Nick Cage. The man literally has a man cave full of Nick Cage paraphernalia. He's got this man's whole acting career in one room. Yeah, there's a lot of references and Easter eggs to a lot of other Cage's movies in here. I'm looking at you, Wicker Man. You know what this movie kind of reminded me of? It reminded me of that movie with James Franco and Seth Rogen, The Interview. Mainly just because the plots are very similar. You know, in that movie, James and Seth played TV hosts who get invited to North Korea to interview Kim Jong-un, who's like a super fan of theirs. And of course, the CIA approaches them and is just like, yeah, you know, that interview is cool and all, but can you do one thing for us? Do you think maybe you can kill this man? You know, it's the same thing here. Nick Cage meets Javi, and Javi just happens to be this really big super fan of his, and the CIA just wants Nick to spy on him for some reason. You know, I just thought that parallel was pretty funny. You know, the thing that really carries this movie is the friendship that these two form. You know, at first, Cage is just kind of like, yeah, you're a little weird. Can you get away from me? But eventually he warms up to Javi and they start growing close as friends. And that dynamic and that camaraderie that they have just brings a huge smile to your face as the movie goes on. And because you see them bonding and having such a great time, you begin to wonder if Javi really is the man that the CIA says he is. I will say that sense of doubt also brings in some pretty good drama between these two. I mean, they do eventually tell you what is happening with him, but I'm not going to spoil it here. Favorite Cage and Pascal moment in the movie is when they're both watching Paddington 2. Oh my god, Paddington 2 is the greatest fucking movie ever. I don't know, it just made me laugh pretty hard. You know, as much praise as I'm giving this film, I will be honest, I do have a few negatives with it. The Nicolas Cage and hobby stuff is great. Everything else about it, it's kind of boring. I don't know, guys, just for whatever reason, I feel like this movie just slowed way down towards the beginning of the second half. There just wasn't a lot going on at that time, and I kind of became a little bored. Come to think of it, that happened a lot of times during my screening. I mean, more than I would like to admit. And as a result, it just kind of became a little underwhelming at some points. Some of the jokes really don't quite land either, and I feel like some of the references and Easter eggs went completely over my head. I'm not this super die-hard Nicolas Cage fan, so I am aware that some of the jokes in this movie I probably just didn't get. I mean, it's possible that probably drugged down my enjoyment of the movie a bit, but I do know one thing, the other guy that was in the movie with me, he was laughing his ass off. I feel like if you're not a Nick Cage superfan, your enjoyment of this film is going to vary. This is going to be one of those films that I feel is going to be very divisive among people because you're going to have casuals that are just not going to have any appeal towards it at all. And then you'll have super fans of Nick Cage who seem to think that this is the funniest movie they've seen all year. You know, not that that's a bad thing. I mean, like I said in the beginning, this movie is ultimately just a big love letter to Nicolas Cage. And I'm okay with that. I'm aware that there are movies out there that are not going to speak to me. It doesn't mean they're entirely bad. It just means I won't be as invested in this film as, you know, this group of people is. And I'm okay with that. Guys, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent was a goofy, fun time. There were times during the movie where it did slow down a bit and it felt a little underwhelming, but it didn't take away from the things that I enjoyed about the film. I know Nicolas Cage fans will definitely get a huge kick out of this movie, and I'll even go as far as to say if you're a casual moviegoer and you want to give this film a chance, you know, give it a chance. You may find something that you actually like here. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent was a fun matinee. Popcorn included. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. Drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe if you're new. I'm gonna make this outro a little quick because I have to get on the road to go see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness in like 10 minutes. Like I said, I feel like this movie is going to be very divisive among people. It's really all going to depend on how big of a Nick Cage fan you are. But like I said, drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe if you're new. And as always, it's Nathan Schreiner. I'm saying peace, and I'll see you guys next time for more Fire Forged movie reviews. Peace out, everybody.